When Republicans talk about election integrity, they're really talking about voter suppression. They're talking about carrying on the legacy of slavery and Jim Crow by actively disenfranchising Black and brown communities through legislation like the American Confidence in Elections Act.
The 2024 Republican presidential primary field is taking shape.
The battle lines are becoming clearer, and so is the field of candidates.
Is the odds-on favorites, if you look at the polling, still Trump versus Biden?
That seems to be it, but it's just way too early to tell.
I'm more angry now, and I'm more committed now than I ever was.
Big challenge for these candidates is going to be how do they navigate Donald Trump? And how do they navigate Ron DeSantis?
You and I have a rendezvous with destiny.
Welcome back to the Ruthless Variety Program. Fellas, it's going to be a big show. We've got a lot of important, fun stuff in front of us, but I got to address that opener. I mean...
The what act?
This is Congresswoman Cori Bush, the distinguished woman from Missouri, who claims that she was talking about election integrity act. That was put forth by Republicans that goes so far as to mandate that you may show a voter ID at the polls. It's Jim Crow.
She makes it sound like it's the worst thing in the world.
It really is Jim Crow when you're required two things to vote: an ID and be a U.S. citizen. That's just like way bridge too far, asking way too much.
But here's honestly, this is my question. Does someone like Cori Bush, who, look, she's a left-wing lunatic. This is somebody who was the tip of the spear for defund the police and then funded a full security unit for herself.
Oh, that's
as
right.
If anyone in the world wanted to get at Cori Bush. But she had a full security unit and then wanted to defund the police at the same time. If you get past all that hypocrisy, then you land on things like this. And I guess my question is, do you think that somebody like this actually believes that?
Yes.
Like genuine, or do you think it's all just a cosplay? Like it's a part of an act in a theater production?
I think for a lot of the smart ones it is. I think she's a dumbass. I think she's straight up a dumbass. I think any election system in which she is elected to Congress does lack integrity.
I think intentionally, like a lot of like what the progressive movement is based on is kind of forcing people to like, oh, you want to be part of the in group, because like at this point,
well, that's what I'm getting at.
So I think it starts off in that path, but then the whole grift gets too good of like, well, now I have a fully funded security team.
Yeah.
You know, I have a pin that means I'm super special. I have to be treated very well as a member of Congress. I think then you're like, hey, well, I guess this crazy shit works for me.
Well, because I always wonder.
Let's see where this goes.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, I wonder if it's in the same. I think it probably is in the same way on the left. Is it on the right? It's like you find these things, you dig and you keep getting more and more extreme, and like, you know, you get more online traffic and all these things, and the next thing you know, you're at a rally with Paul Gosar. And like, I feel like that's the situation with Cori Bush, is that like the AOCs and all these people who are completely crazy, no question about it, but much of what they do is theatrical. And then all of a sudden they wake up one day and it's like, oh, it's Cori Bush.
I mean, it really is something, because this act basically just asks for those two things. You have to be a U.S. citizen and have ID. I mean, that's it. That's it.
She's taken hyperbole to a new level.
It is really amazing. Well, welcome back. Listen, folks, a fun new product here. I hope you enjoyed the first show that we had on video. This was on video as well. I would urge all of you, and there's a number of you that are subscribers to our YouTube page, but you need to frequent it, because this is a new medium that we're going to try to push out as much as we possibly can. If you're not a subscriber on the YouTube page, go there now. Michael, is there a subdomain we should be aware of?
Go to YouTube, type in Ruthless Podcast, you'll find it. Now they're just goofing on the old man. But no, look, it's important. Like, you know, we obviously put a lot of time and effort into this show, and we love the listeners, and we would like to continue to grow the listeners of this show. And part of that is like new people got to find us, right? And you know, people discover shows and stuff on places like YouTube and Rumble. So if you're able to like share it and stuff on your social media. It's super, super helpful. We'd really appreciate it.
And Lord knows nobody's going to do us any favors in the algorithms.
No, I don't think we're going to be boosted on there to the top. I don't think we'll be on the homepage.
We won't get boosted?
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
That's your Grassley? That's
it's just kind of
just
a general Midwestern. Oh, no.
Yeah, but it's sort of a distinct sort of upper Midwest thing that you have.
Boosted.
You're so good at it.
It's where I'm from.
I know.
It's where I'm from. It comes second
But
nature.
also, we'd be remiss to not say that there will be, specifically for our YouTube viewers, special surprises from time to time.
We do have special surprises. So, listen, we've had a jam-packed week. We're doing video for the first time. For those of you who are looking for King of the Hill, we're not going to do it in today's episode because we got a bunch of stuff going on, but maybe we do it later this week on YouTube.
I think that'd be a nice little treat.
Well, that's a great idea.
We're going to do it later this week on YouTube. That would be great. I also think there's a lot of, the video medium gives us an opportunity to really stretch our legs. The tiny TV's gone.
Yeah.
No more tiny TV.
The Wolf is built a hell of a studio.
I'm surprised to hear you concede that it's a tiny TV because you were an ardent defender of this.
I'm lying to myself. The TV is not tiny, but it is gone. I only said that so that our viewers would understand what I'm referencing. But we could do so much with video in things like, oh gosh, we've got so many ideas. I don't want to preview all of them, but one in particular that I think is worth mentioning is we're going to see a lot of ads here over the next 6 months, 8 months ahead of Iowa, New Hampshire, and everything. And I think it would be a cool little treat if we previewed some of those, did a little Mystery Science Theater, gave our thoughts and feedback on it. The Wolf's got a whole thing he's working up on it. Stay tuned on that, but you'll be able to find it on YouTube and Rumble.
I love this.
Yeah, I think it'll be awesome.
And also, it's pretty exciting that there's video of an in-studio interview today.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, it's the first one. It's a very worthy customer here. We're talking about Congressman Morgan Luttrell. Many of you have become familiar with him because of his stories. A Navy SEAL. He's an incredibly impressive individual, just a patriot beyond all patriots. But he came in for the first time on the Ruthless Variety program today in video in our studio.
Well, so it's also weird just, this is sort of a behind the scenes thing because now we're on video. So you can't do things and get up and go to the bathroom in the middle of the thing. Right. And I know if I have to leave to go to a meeting,
professionals don't get
I'm
up
going
and leave.
I'm going to get goofed on.
Well,
but I'm interested to see how the Wolf handles this interview because we're actually in different chairs than we were during the interview. Are we going to get a cross dissolve? What's going to be the animation? The Wolf's got some little bit of work there, a little magic, a little movie magic.
A little movie magic. Maybe you should just do a stroll across as you're accustomed to doing.
Like I'm a ring girl.
we do a screen wipe of Duncan yet again, just bolting from the studio.
And now our interview. It's just me. It's me in a banana hammock.
It's Duncan and a tea backer just walking across. I think that's right. I think that's the right move.
Jeez.
Your mom listens to this program.
I know. She just texted me, and I said this to the Wolf before we recorded, but I want to share publicly how much she is pleased with the production you've put together, pal. It's really incredible. She said she was watching it on the TV. It was 1080p, as they say. High resolution.
A high resolution thing.
Nothing better than the old man.
And look, she doesn't just toss around compliments. Mrs. Duncan is she's a stickler.
She's a real ball buster.
Yeah, she's a stickler.
But look, he's a very handsome guy.
He's super handsome, and there's no question about it. And the one thing that he's better at than anyone else in the world is selling merch. How are we doing, sir?
We're doing good.
I bought some, Michael.
Just so
Here he goes again.
Just so you know, I bought some last Friday night.
You talked about it. You already did this.
I know. Yeah, you did.
You already did this.
I bought a pullover. I bought some koozies.
Yeah, congratulations.
I bought a coffee cup. Are you kidding me? Michael, I bought it. You said we have to buy it, so I did that.
And I also, yet again, I got to say, I love seeing folks send in their photos of their merch arriving. It's super professional. It even comes with Ruthless packaging. This is some amazing stuff Duncan did together.
Real packaging.
It's great merch.
I can't take credit for it. It's team effort.
Smug, have you purchased any of our gear?
I have. I've gotten my own merch from it because there's Smug 2024 merch. So I got to support myself.
You got the merch. Always a selfless man.
Anything with my name on it, I am the first in line.
But But Smug, to your point, last weekend was full of pictures from people who were showing like they were grilling out. They had a beer with the koozie. It was awesome.
Yeah. And I'm going to love seeing that all on the road because we're hitting the road big time during this election cycle. So you got the merch. I'll see you out there.
Yeah, dude, we're going to make it. We have so many fun announcements. I can't wait.
They're coming soon.
Listen, people, this is going to be incredible. This is the summer, not of just violence.
Hey, this will finally be a summer not of violence, hopefully.
Hopefully.
We've had a bit too many of those.
Not just of violence. All right, as we start every Thursday, let's do some 5 stars. Where's the voice when we need him?
Okay, this first one comes from Satisfied Listeners 1, titled, Of All the Options, Easily the Best. Satisfied Listener 1 writes, of all the thousands of politically focused podcasts in the world, I can easily recommend this one above all others.
Wow.
First, I want to make clear that I did not find these guys through Megyn Kelly.
It's worth pointing out.
I cannot explain enough how little Megyn Kelly had to do with me finding the podcast.
Which is a great bit because so many of our listeners, thanks, shout out to Megyn Kelly.
We're very
found
grateful.
us through it.
We're very grateful for Megan. Absolutely.
As a matter of fact, I found Megyn Kelly because of these guys.
Oh, there you go.
Hey, all right. So we added one in the other column.
It's a two-way street.
That's it. Like
So we gave you one.
Rising tide.
Megyn, you're welcome.
You're welcome.
If we're honest, most political podcasts are very hard to listen to. They talk about really important things that tends to lead to, especially on the conservative side, defeatism and angst. But these guys beat the mold by being constantly hilarious and talking about serious subjects with a sense of humor and an eye towards a better future.
That's right.
That's nice.
They aren't the only political podcasts I listen to, but they are by far the best. If nothing else, they're preparing us for the rising animal menace.
Well, that's your bailiwick.
I'm very glad they're listening to that because it's one of the most important messages that we deliver on the show.
Unquestionably.
The rising animal menace that other podcasts won't even touch. Keep the faith, hold the line, own the libs, and God bless.
Oh, what a great review.
I love that review. I like the idea that Satisfied Listener was taken, so they had to go Satisfied Listener 1.
Yes. Yeah, that is solid.
Which, it tells me we've had a couple of these.
I love that. I love that.
At least 2.
Yeah.
Smugglesworth? Yeah, no, seriously, it's 2. It's the whole 2. We have 2 Satisfied. Yeah.
So this is from LW108, big fan of the program. It says, Ruthless that flies hopelessly off the rails is the best kind of ruthless. Oh, boy. Yeah. Don't want to tell us this one. I had to listen to...
Where's the bourbon?
Yeah. Got to give them what they want. I had to listen to the 300th episode twice. I was laughing so hard through it. I'm a day one listener, thank you so much, who found Megyn Kelly's show through yours. Wow.
What?
This is a pattern. Through yours, and didn't realize how hooked I'd become until the post-Memorial Day show was released a few hours later than normal, and it thoroughly ruined my morning commute.
Once again, Megyn, you're welcome.
Keep up the great work, fellas, and for the love of God, would someone get Duncan a drink?
Oh, a shot right at Smash.
Yeah.
Right in his face.
You know what? You can have mine again.
Many people are saying.
Look at that. He doubled up. He gave him 2 Juicy Lucy's.
That's so thoughtful.
Isn't it?
They're not a sponsor, so stop saying their name.
Look at you, Mr. Money Grumble. Unbelievable.
Well, you bring it out of me when you have me bring up the merch every episode.
I do.
You know?
That's what I'm trying to do.
Store.ruthlesspodcast.com.
There we go.
And what is that? Is it a subdomain?
It's a good domain.
It's a good domain. A good domain.
It's a good one.
It's the number one refer of all of our sales. It's unbelievable. Just the disrespect for me.
Well, you're just very good at what you do. You know.
Well, now I'm seeing here in the 5 stars one that I'm obviously going to read because it's about me.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. As most are.
This is Maui Girl 80. The title is More Old Man.
Yeah. No. I this is specifically tailored.
Can you believe that?
It's tailored for the old man. We used to do this to Smash all the time, but now it's your turn.
I don't know how old the quote old man is, but I love him more and more. Also, he's a cutie.
This is
oh
boy!
Oh my goodness!
I'm gonna blush.
My goodness, you've had some talk about your guns too.
Yeah.
Fellas,
he's hiding them today.
Yeah, putting those guns behind the bars.
I had to do business. Fellas, let him walk out when he needs to make an appointment, create subdomains, and go off the rails on all his conspiracy theories.
That's it right there in a nutshell.
That's the greatest thing about our listeners, dude, is like they'll compliment you and then just like shred you to pieces. Which is exactly how we are with each other.
But also if like things don't work out with Katie, Maui Girls definitely gets you, dude.
He's like, I like the crazy old guy with the conspiracy theories.
Yes, this is why my wife doesn't listen. Us, quote, old people, I'm in my early 40s, so I guess I'm ancient. Enjoy it. The program brings laughter and wisdom in these confusing times. Keep it coming, fellas. The road to 2024 feels tumultuous, but y'all keep us feeling positive.
It's what we aim to do.
We do.
Right.
I think there's way too many people in the Republican Party right now that are sort of fatalistic about everything. And there's like, oh, well, just there's no chance. And, we can't, I'm only one person. What can I do? And that, gosh, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you wake up every morning with that in your head, you are going to lose. You are going to do it to yourself. And like, I feel like, we, on our show, try to inspire people a little bit to a little bit of hope.
There's a lot of ways that I saw this program going today. The old man being the sunny optimist was definitely not one of them.
Well, you say nice things. You say nice things about me, and I'm in a good mood.
Which is 100% what happened. She fluffed his pillows, and all of a sudden, here he is. Oh, you know what? Everything's gonna be all right.
But that is a good message. It's time to stop worrying. Put on the happy warrior game face. This is going to be a great cycle for Republicans, and thinking that you're alone is wrong, because we are legion. We're the majority in this country.
We're
the sane people, and now we're going to win.
100%. I love it. Okay, so let's start with a big story of the week, because I think this one deserves some context you're not going to see on Sports Talk. And you're certainly not going to see. I saw this all day, by the way, on like CNN and Fox, and I don't think you get it there either. This is the story of LIV and the PGA. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with professional golf or how this is all operated, the PGA has been omnipresent our entire lifetime, but well beyond that. There's been elements over the years where people have tried to break off and do new things, but it's all kind of figured out how to come back together. It has been in the era of Tiger Woods since 96, basically. Absolutely, incalculably dominant. The PGA is professional golf, and that's it. Mm-hmm. And what happened was, over the last couple of years, the Saudis decided to fund a Greg Norman venture for what they called LIV Golf. And LIV Golf's only goal was to recruit a bunch of really high-profile golfers out of the PGA to golf a different style of tournament, pay them handsomely, and be a competitor.
Mm-hmm. So I don't really watch much golf, PGA or LIV, but I've seen folks talking about this, that LIV is kind of more like, you let your hair down, have a good time.
Yeah, it's the party league.
Yeah,
they wear shorts, right? Their
like, was it
fans
them
are...
who had that tournament in Arizona? That was supposed to be like
no. So the Waste Management. So I'm glad you say that though, because so the Waste Management is a PGA Tour event. But that 16th, it's the 16th, right?
Yep.
Yeah, the 16th hole where everybody parties at the Waste Management is sort of unique.
I'd like to think I helped
PGA.
pioneer that.
Yeah, I'm sure you did.
Arizona State University.
I think they should carve your name into one of the bleachers.
I think there is no question that at least one of the grandstands ought to adorn my name.
Yeah, I think
He's like, I carved my name in there myself.
But to that point, that's the exception. That's not the rule in the PGA. The PGA is sort of seen as a stodgy blue blazer sort of thing, and
country club thing,
which I understand. But LIV was like, let's have they have this thing called the party hole. Like in a lot of their tournaments, they have a hole that is sort of designated the same way as that Waste Management event, where there's like people partying, everybody's drinking, people throwing beers.
Even the golfers, like you can crack a beer. Or is it more of like the stands?
I mean, there's real money at stake. Let's not get for the competition
It's not full
itself,
John Daly.
the actual prize money in a live tournament is in some cases double what you would get out of a regular PGA event.
Just to put a number on that, okay, Harold Varner III won the tournament in the D.C. metro area. It was at the Trump National Golf Course. It was a couple weeks ago, and on Sunday he won the tournament and took home $4 million. Okay, John Rahm won the Masters tournament this year.
The biggest golf tournament, the most prestigious thing in the world.
And he made $3.2 million.
Wow.
Right.
So there's a lot of money changing hands. There's a lot of good ideas behind Live, and it's laid back, and it does a lot of things that sort of like answer the call of complaints for years and years about the PGA. But the execution is not necessarily at the same level that PGA execution.
Yeah, it's not a PGA Tour event. But I will say, the organizers have done a nice job. And what they did more than anything is they recruited Brooks Koepka.
Mm-hmm.
And Brooks Koepka was going through a downturn in his career in 2021. And he was injured and whatnot. He had been one of the most dominant golfers in all of the PGA over the previous 5 years. He'd won 3 majors. And they recruited him over there along with like Dustin Johnson, right? Phil Mickelson, big household names. And all of a sudden, Brooks gets his game back. And he gets second at the Masters and then wins the PGA. Because the PGA vowed to keep all of golfers who joined Live out of their tournaments, but they couldn't keep them out of the majors, the 4 major tournaments, because you qualify for them based on either winning it or getting a top 5 or top 10 finish in previous years.
Yeah, you can't keep the guy who came up, runner-up at the Masters out of the PGA Championship.
You can't.
Even though, they would have loved to.
They would have loved to.
Yeah.
But he wins, right? So it became inevitable that at some point they were going to have to figure this thing out one way or another. Now, in D.C., this became a super political thing because the PGA saw their best argument against Live Golf as anti-Saudi.
Right. But this is an effort of the Saudis to what they called sports washing, right?
That's what they said.
They're laundering public opinion through this golf thing, and that helps them in PR.
Which was all kind of a creation and well done in many ways by the PGA.
Yeah, but I think that's a stupid argument, but continue.
Yeah, no, so they've made this argument that the Saudi-funded league is basically trying to sports wash a bad reputation of, funding terrorism. They had 9/11 families that were speaking out against it. There was the protests over Jamal Khashoggi with the Washington Post editorialist who was killed. All of this kind of stuff to basically try to say that all of the golfers that are going from the PGA to Live had blood on their hands.
Yeah.
And this was a cold, calculated move to just take the money.
When in reality, if you listen to some of these guys who went over there, like, case in point, Harold Varner III, he said, I grew up with no money. I'm going to this league because they're paying me a boatload. And
this
that's
is
why I'm doing it.
A lot of this is, I think the PGA probably took this tack because they knew journos would run with this. Because there's nothing journos care about themselves, and they've made this all about themselves. That how can you back Saudi Arabia who killed a journalist? And where was that moral outrage and indignation when Joe Biden fist bumps MBS?
Right.
Right?
But
an absolute surrender of that.
Like the Biden administration signed a multi-billion-dollar weapons deal with Saudi Arabia. I remember when we did this previously on the show, it was like, all right, so how do you reconcile those two things?
And they just operated out of ignorance, right? The fact that people don't know that the Biden administration, as every previous administration has done, entered into a weapons agreement with the Saudi Arabians, that they didn't know somehow that like 2/3 of the investment funds that fund your 401ks and your retirement savings have massive Saudi Arabian investment. Like all of those things are very much a fact, but the PGA used that to try to just make this the other.
They're 100% banked on the fact that the public is not aware of the whole macro look at what this is. To begin with, why does Saudi Arabia have so much money? Well, they've got a lot of oil. And who buys oil? Americans. We put it in our cars, right?
And why do we do that? Because we shut our own shit down.
Bingo. We used to be energy independent, but hey, now we're not because of the Biden administration. Anyways, so that money then goes into what? Making golf tournaments that Americans can enjoy. Seems like a better use than like the taxes being put on my gasoline, you know, like, hey, okay.
Or like funding a madras. You know?
It's certainly better than 9/11, I can tell you that much. No, I mean, look, I
guess what I'm saying is like, I think the PGA, I was sort of ham-fisted and they did it purposely to sort of try to drive this wedge. There is a good point, and there's a larger argument. You talk about like the NBA in China and all that sort of stuff. There's an argument to be made that it's like, what is our moral imperative when it comes to sports and patriotism? That there is a legitimate argument to that, I think.
And I think that's the thing, is being able to separate that is huge, because if you want to turn a golf tournament into an argument about global geopolitics, then it's like, okay, well, if we sell arms to Saudi Arabia, they're basically just pointed at Iran, who builds bombs to kill our soldiers around the world. So I think that's probably a net benefit.
But also, all right, read the sponsors on your favorite golfer's hat.
Right.
Right? Do that. And then you can make it. I mean, the problem is
all I'm suggesting is it is more complicated than
it's
just
much
what I mean?
more complicated. But the media does not deal in complication. The media deals in narrative, and what's the narrative that they want to drive, and what is it that they're going to use their paper like a blunt force instrument, and nobody in the audience matters. Yeah. Everybody's ideas, everybody else who has a different opinion, be damned.
I think the biggest issue, though, honestly, was that the PGA commissioner, Jay Monahan, basically put a red line down where he said, when have you ever had to apologize for being a professional golfer unless you're a live golfer? And he made it seem as though this is basically a blood money situation. And they drove a very hard line, banning people from events, making sure that the points they accrued during live didn't qualify for tournaments in the PGA, all of that stuff. And it was a war, a full war. Which I understand. I mean, the guy's trying to protect his product. But at the end of the day, then, they're like, surprise, we merged.
Yeah. So all of that wind up is to say the big news was Live and the PGA are merging, which is, after all this, it shows how garbage this attempt at a moral high ground is.
Right.
Because always, at the end of the day, it's down to the dollar.
And also just how PR works. How PR work, and this was a political argument. The reason we're bringing it up at the top of our show is because this was a political argument that was happening in Washington, D.C. There are people in Washington, D.C., well-known operatives that we deal with on a day-to-day basis that were hired and fired based on their association with LIV because it became a dead letter, because it was association with what the narrative that the PGA had built about people who should be associated with LIV. And they got fired off campaigns, presidential campaigns. And it's all nonsense. Mm-hmm. It's all nonsense.
And also,
like, you want to go talk to Northrop Grumman about that, right? Go talk to any of the defense manufacturers in this country about how they feel about Saudi contracts.
Well, in sort of,
they're the and by the way, they're the ones sponsoring the fucking golf tournament in the first place.
Right?
They're like,
right?
Yeah. They're like, we believe Saudi Arabia has a great vision for innovative weapon systems.
It's nonsense. It's bullshit. If you got captivated by this argument that somehow these live golfers had blood money on their hands because they left the PGA to go take Saudi Arabian money, you were wrong. Mm-hmm. You look dumb. Rory McIlroy looks like a fucking idiot right now.
Yeah, defending the PGA. And sort of like, ironically, it's proof that competition is good. Like that's the thing we should cheer.
They demonstrably improved the PGA's product.
Right.
They forced the PGA's hand to create more elevated events with higher purses that got the top players in golf to show up at tournaments they normally wouldn't show up at.
Yeah.
Right? Improved the product at the PGA. Right? Now, with this merger, I assume we're also going to be exporting the game of golf to a lot of places that have been wanting to see tournaments, that like the PGA, for whatever reason, probably because it was basically a monopoly, not maybe legally, but in the marketplace it was, that they didn't care about those people. And like LIV clearly showed an interest in broadening the game out into the rest of the world. It's like, that's kind of what competition is, and that's what we should be cheering about.
I'm going to ad-lib a bit here because I think this draws a larger point that we got to at the end of the last program where we were talking about climate change. The last vestige of the left, if you watch it over and over again, where you're dealing with either transgender sports or you're dealing with climate change, the last vestige is, this is the way it is. If you disagree with it, you are X.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then you do the math on it, and you're like, well, that doesn't make total sense because these people say Y.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, you believe X. We all believe X. Because if you don't believe X, it's not true. And it becomes a pressure moment where they use corporate America and everything else to try to reinforce a narrative that they've created that's not necessarily true. Like, how about the fact that the PGA has sponsors up the wazoo that are funded to the hilt by Saudi Arabia, but yet they're the ones that are saying basically that Saudi Arabia is a blood money operation,
right?
But they're taking the money.
Right. It's only a blood money operation because they didn't pay the toll to the PGA.
Because they didn't pay the toll.
That's that's perfect.
Right?
That is essentially what the left does.
And
They're
that's-
like, hey, the PGA's got a similar business.
Dude, it's true. It's true, but I think that's the way they formulated it.
Yeah.
It's not a bad PR plan. I mean, if you look at climate change, for example, I mean, there was a study by our favorite Big Bean Ass this week.
It's just called PNS.
The Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences.
Yeah, it's Big Penis for those of us who like to shorthand it. Where they were talking specifically about how there is global cooling going on in the upper atmosphere.
Oh no!
See, I mean, and that's the hot.
Isn't it cold in the upper atmosphere?
The climate grift.
Well, I thought it was only warming.
That's the thing is because they figured out that like they couldn't push this BS about it's only warming. Well, why is it being cold in some places? That's global cooling in those parts. It's like heads I win, tails I win. Like they have to have both sides of the argument. Like, but that's science.
But
if it gets hot or it's cold, it's humans.
Something that we have talked about over and over and over on this show is that the left does not care about the environment. This is not about clean air. This is not about clean water. This is about power. This is about them exercising control over your daily life, making you eat bugs, making you get rid of your gas stove,
kill
making you get rid of the
200,000
car
cows
that you like to drive to work, kill the cows, everything. They hate you. They want to control your life, and they want to be in charge.
I mean, it's all this is just completely interconnected. It's the same thing as like John Kerry will say we need to worry about climate change while he takes a PJ. Cory Bush will say we need to defund the police. She gets herself a private security system. PGA is like this is blood money, but also our sponsors get their money from the PGA.
but that's the thing. But what they rely on is you to do no research, to you to not think for yourself even one iota, but also the bullying of the entire corporate and well-meaning society to ensure that you're not going to get out of line. You can't possibly say if you're a individual in corporate America and you walked into your boardroom and you're having conversations with somebody, or even executive management, you're talking with somebody and you're like, I'm not sure global warming exists. Your job is pretty much fucked.
The room empties.
I mean, everybody's going to be like, you got to be kidding me.
Right.
Like, don't associate with that guy.
You're not even allowed to ask the question. You're not allowed to raise a different point of view. It's like, here is our talking points. Here is our belief system. If you don't sign on the dotted line and believe everything that the left believes, you are over. Like, it is the most anti-American sentiment that exists in the world today.
It totally
is. We
is.
have to root it out.
One thing I want to touch on specifically in this instance is, can we give, for folks like myself who haven't followed the situation as closely, can we give ballpark numbers on what these contracts were like that Liv was giving out? Like I just
we
quickly Googled it. There was a person who pulled down $100 million.
Yeah.
Well,
and they signed it in August, and the merger happens in June. It's pretty good for 8 months of work, dude.
I have to imagine that part of the deal that the PGA did with Liv was to ensure that all the people who rejected the contracts that Liv gave were made whole on the contracts that they denied out of loyalty. If that's not the case, if Rory doesn't get like $500 million out of this deal, and if Tiger doesn't get $800 million because he rejected it out of loyalty to the PGA, oh boy.
I bet they won't. Do you know why? Because now the PGA is the only game in town again.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
What are you going to do? Go start your own league?
I just don't know how.
Someone try that.
But I just don't know how like Jay Moynihan survives that. I mean, Jay Moynihan's a nice commissioner. I'm sure he does a great job. But like Tiger Woods says it's time, pal. It's time.
Yeah.
I just feel so bad for him. I mean, everyone knows his wife ruined his life. He was winning every tournament. She like attacks his car with the golf clubs, and it all just like spirals from there.
I'm not worried about Tiger Woods, dude. He's going to be on the range with shakes, and he's going to have like falcons and falconers retrieving his ball.
That would be a good touch.
Also,
that'd be a nice little addition to the game.
I didn't see specifics on this, but apparently, Lionel Messi, French soccer player.
No, Argentinian.
Argentinian? Okay. I'm not a big soccer guy.
Jeez,
but
listen,
he plays for PSG. It's a French team.
So
it's all the same.
He's offered a deal that's for what, like $1 billion in a Saudi? Is it a Saudi soccer league?
Yeah, Saudi league.
And he turns it down to play in Miami.
How about that?
But here's the thing: then I saw details of why he did this. Is he's being made whole by he's getting a piece of the action of Apple bought a contract for that soccer league. He's getting a percentage of that. They're making him whole with all these various pieces.
Good businessman.
I love that competition in the sense of it gets people paid. You know, like if you can have...
if you're the best at what you do...
Totally.
You figure out how to get paid.
Don't demand to have a blockade of like, we will pay people less. We will have a shittier product because that's just the way it's going to be.
Yeah, because then you're just the Denver Broncos.
Hey, we get people paid. It's just the wrong people.
Which is yet another reminder on subscribe to YouTube, Ruthless. Make sure that you're on watching.
That's right.
So we don't have to go deeply into debt. Listen, we got to get to the presidential. Couple of really big announcements this week. We had Chris Christie, a good friend of the program, come out with a town hall style in New Hampshire, which I found quite compelling. Look, I understand that the ceiling for Chris Christie is much lower than it is for the average candidate. People have made up their minds about whether or not they want to entertain his arguments, and it was quite hostile on social media. I'll just put it that way. But if you listen to what he was saying and the arguments that he was making, he made some of the most direct attacks against Donald Trump that I've ever heard in the history of Trump's political career. This dude, when he came on the program, told us what he was going to do, and then he went out and did it. So, I mean, you all know. I mean, you listen to this program first. When we asked him, would you run for president if you felt like the case against Donald Trump was being prosecuted the way it should, and he said no, and then he announced for president, you pretty much knew what he was up to.
I mean, that's the thing is like, if you support President Trump in the primary, of course you're not going to like it. But if you're running for president, you're got to beat everyone else who's running. I mean, that's just how it works. I would be remiss if I didn't bring this up. So the day Chris Christie announces, as we all know, he had that famous moment in 2016.
I know.
Here we go.
On
Here
the
we
debate
go.
stage with Marco Rubio, where Rubio starts repeating himself and Chris Christie just destroys him. I don't need to tell everyone. Everyone's seen the video. He basically just pile drives Rubio, ends his campaign. So Chris Christie announces he's running for president. What does Marco Rubio do? This is, yet again, just like the most ridiculous idea. He tweets about it, and he says, this is from Marco Rubio. Any political reporter / commentator claiming Christie, quote, ended my campaign in 2016 is lazy or dumb. New Hampshire debates sucked because instead of hitting back when attacked like I wanted to, I listened to advice about, quote, pivoting and not, quote, punching down on a CC who was at 7% and about to drop out. But it didn't end my campaign. After New Hampshire, I finished second in South Carolina, Nevada, won 3 primaries, almost won Virginia on Super Tuesday, finished with the third most delegates behind Trump's historic campaign, was reelected twice by 8 and 17 points. So, like, dude goes on Wikipedia looking up, like, margins, and he's like, but tell everyone I'm not mad. I was absolutely not mad. I'm not angry at all. And so, this, in the frame of, like, the Christie announcement,
yeah,
this could not be a more perfect thing to happen, because this tweet goes viral of everyone dunking on Rubio like, bro, that was like how many years ago? Like, clearly he ended you if it like haunts you this hard to this day.
I feel like the only 2 people in America who still care about that are you and Marco Rubio.
The funniest thing is he said he was over it.
Yeah.
He's not over it.
He's like, I'm completely over this, and I'm not angry.
Here's 300 words about how over it I am.
And so here's another thing. No, I got. This is inside information.
Okay, good. Let's hear it. We like that on the
A
variety
trusted
program.
source connected to the Christie campaign let me know that tweet, they end up, quote, retweeting it with a fundraising link, Chris Christie's campaign account. And that ends up being one of the biggest hours that they fundraised.
Really?
On launch day. Dead serious.
Interesting. Well, listen.
I mean, this is so great of how they this is going to be huge, because we were discussing this before we recorded the other day about how one of the most important things about this campaign cycle is earned media.
Yeah.
Right? There's going to be there's a bunch of great candidates. Everyone's fighting for attention. Like, for a Republican primary voter, it's an embarrassment of riches. Your choices are wonderful. Great choices out there. So capturing the attention of folks is going to be extremely difficult. It has been extremely difficult, especially when you've got one of the greatest showmen who's ever lived, Donald Trump, running. But this is an example of what happens with earned media. You turn it around, use it to your advantage. That was smart. It worked.
Well, listen, here's my take on Chris Christie. I don't care what anybody thinks about the guy. I like him a lot personally. I think he is smart. I think he is tough. I think he is a worthy competitor of anybody. He should be on that stage because he is somebody who's earned the right to be on that stage. Now, whether or not he's competitive or not, time will tell. But that dude, if you listen to his speech, if you actually listen to it, and you thought about his answers, and by the way, how about the fact that he had a town hall where people were asking him questions about, clearly from a pro-choice angle, to a pro-life candidate, how he would handle that. I mean, talk about the opposite of planted questions and planted media. He took it all, which, I mean, look, say what you will about the guy. That's a hell of a quality.
And I mean, he kind of built his career off of, he will go into any audience, fight for ground, make his stance known. And I mean,
he's going to make everyone better. I guess that's 100%. My point. If this guy doesn't win, which it doesn't look like there's much of a chance when he gets into it that he's going to win, there is no chance he doesn't make every Republican candidate better, because looking across the stage at that guy, he's bringing heat.
That's it.
Well, you do. You know he's bringing heat. But I think in particular in the DeSantis camp, at least in the supporters you see online posting about it, there's a little bit of consternation about, is he really going to go after Trump?
Yeah.
Because he didn't go after Trump in 2016. He went after Rubio, as we've just spent.
But his first event, man, he went after Trump pretty hard.
That's what I'm saying.
He went after the kids. He went after it was.
Well, look, I get it. All I'm saying is when Christie came last in studio. I mean, I think it's fair to say he was just as animated attacking Ron DeSantis as he wasn't attacking Donald Trump. Now, Ron DeSantis didn't try to kill him by giving him COVID.
which he has some thoughts on.
He has a lot of thoughts on that. So I think, before this announcement, there's certainly a lot of people in the DeSantis camp and those folks who are like, all right, is he really going to attack Trump, or is he coming for me?
So I love that worry, because, and it's exactly what Holmes said.
It's proof.
Every candidate has to be better.
Yeah.
Because Chris Christie on a debate stage, he's like the guy when you're watching a WWF fight. He's the guy who creeps away and reaches under the mat and he's got a chair. And everyone's like, oh my God.
You lose sight of him and you get a chair.
Somebody with a chair.
It's exactly right. If last
and they're
night,
scared, DeSantis people are scared he's going to hit them with the chair.
It's a crazy Ivan.
Yeah.
He's going to roll up and someone's getting the chair.
If last night was any indication, he is headed full speed at every single other person he's running against. And you guys were all 13-year-old boys at one point. You all had a friend who one summer got everybody around, made sure everyone's eyes were on them, and just ran as fast as they could toward the pool and yelled cannonball and sprayed everybody sitting on the side. And I feel like that is exactly what Chris Christie is doing.
I mean, I will say, to me, so far this primary season, I think he's got a point. there hasn't been enough fighting.
Yeah, fight.
It's got to be king of the hill.
Well, yeah,
you want to be the
If
king.
anybody says,
take the crown.
well, you did a great job for 4 years, and I would do some things differently. Go fuck yourself and go back to your state.
Well, yeah,
I'm not interested in any of your point of views. You play to win, or you don't play at all.
Everybody needs to start fighting. We got to have entertainment too.
Yeah.
I want to be entertained.
And I can understand if you're listening to this and you're a fan of a particular candidate or you want us to all get along. I would
today.
I would like to disabuse you of that notion because all those arguments are coming in the general election.
Yep.
And so we want the candidate, regardless of who wins, the best prepared possible for taking on Joe Biden.
Because if you're a Republican nominee, it's not just about taking on Joe Biden.
It's the media,
It's
too.
about taking on the corporate media.
Mm-hmm.
It's about taking on Hollywood. It's about taking on corporate America.
Mm-hmm.
It's about taking on academic America. It's about talking about every single institution in this country coming all at you. So if you are trained by Chris Christie to deal with that, you're going to be in a better
That's the thing.
place. I can promise you that.
It's running the gauntlet. You got to survive the crucible, like Donald Trump did in 2016. He had, that was a brawl. It was a brawl at all times, that entire campaign. Then he goes to face Hillary Clinton, and he had that moment where she was like, well, then I guess it's glad you're not charged as the justice.
Well, you'd be in jail.
You'd be in jail. Power dunks on her. Because that's what happens is when you're tested through that fire, you're ready. You're ready for it. So whichever Republican survives through this, we want it to be a brawl. We want them to be ready to fight.
Totally. All right. So, listen, the presidential, let me just put it this way in this week. Mike Pence also gets in. Mm-hmm. Very formidable, obviously, a former vice president, got a national profile, has a big following. A lot of people are interested in his candidacy. He is clearly aiming towards Iowa, perhaps to make a moral case for himself and against sort of the previous 4 years that he was a part of. He put out a video. It was very Mike Pence. Everything seemed like it was telling his story. What do we think, fellas? Is he a serious contender here?
Well, he clearly still has a big following in the evangelical community, which is huge in Iowa. I think there's a lot of the Trump base that is uniquely inaccessible to him as a candidate
because he didn't have the courage to do the right thing.
That being said, though, I think his voice is important in this primary process. I don't know what his chances are. He's starting at a huge deficit, obviously. But I'm from Indiana, so I got to cheer for it.
The one thing, and look, we've done events with Pence. He's been on the program. The one thing I'll say about the guy is there's no chance that you can ever believe he's not genuine about the way he feels, the way he treats people, the way his family treats people, the way his family sort of is. And his family is extended to all those people in this campaign that he's around. And they all kind of operate the same way.
Yeah.
And that says something about a successful person in any walk of life, that they have leadership from the top. They all view things the same way. They're not unpredictable. They're not sort of, you're not going to get anything strange and weird out of Mike Pence. Like he's authentic to who he is.
But honestly, I would like him to be a little bit more unpredictable. And I think people's conception of Mike Pence is a guy who's very, very buttoned up, right? And he's on the talkers, and he's not going to stray from any of that. People forget this guy came up in radio.
Yeah, totally.
Like, he was a disc jockey guy. And I would love to see a Mike Pence relaxed on the trail, shooting from the hip a little bit more, rather than being so predictable.
If he's going to have a shot here, let me just say, this is my advice. If he's going to have a shot here, he can't simply claim I was very proud of the 4 years that I spent with Donald Trump. Because every one of those people are voting for Donald Trump. He has to drive a wedge to whatever claim or counterclaim that Trump is making, either to him or to DeSantis or whoever else.
Yeah.
To say, I was in the room, pal. That's not the way that went down. You were going to do this. You were going to do that. We could have gotten a lot more. and you wouldn't follow my advice. I mean, he's going to have to get into that because that's the only thing that's scintillating enough to rise beyond Tim Scott, Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis to a point where people are talking about Mike Pence. Otherwise, you're just talking about another candidate with a certain set of values that may align more with an Iowa electorate, and we'll just see how the whole thing washes out.
If we were talking about, pitching 10 soft drinks, you would say, like, what is your market advantage, right?
Yeah.
The market advantage of Mike Pence is that he was in the room the most with the guy, right? And so I totally 100% agree. If that's not something that's going to be a main feature of the event, I don't see how it's going to
And I think he kind of needs to do it pretty quick. We'll see what happens. But it seems to me like this is not something that you can do once you get desperate.
Yeah.
Like it needs to be a feature.
My advice to him is, I think Duncan's right. You got to shake it up a little bit. He shows up on that debate. They start asking some candidate about taxes or something like that. He looks at the audience, reaches behind the podium, pulls out a steel chair. Starts walking. Everyone's like, he's got the chair. He's got a steel chair.
And then Christie does like a full off the ropes. Remember the full off the rope thing, and then just bulldozes.
And I think
like where you test the rope first.
Yeah, you got to test it.
It's all part and parcel, is because entertainment is a key part of this, as Trump completely showed in 2016. You have an animated primary voter base. They want to see someone who's fired up.
Totally.
I would be remiss, speaking of fired up, we had another candidate who jumped in, Doug Burgum.
Oh, yeah.
Governor of North Dakota.
That's right.
A couple things I wanted to say about
I
this.
know the Burgums.
You do?
I know.
Okay, so I knew very little. He seems pretty cool from what I just Googled today.
Yeah.
Number one, I'll send this to the Wolf for the folks watching on YouTube. His launch event got terrific reviews. Did you guys see any?
Yeah, I did. No, I mean, it's beautiful.
That's how you do advanced work.
Good advanced work.
It's great stuff.
So when we compare it to like the DeSantis launch of like, you'd brought
that
up,
one didn't work.
Do you want to
we
have
talked
a
about
good, physical, exciting like rally, or do you want to try something untested? This is, I mean, and I guess North Dakota must love them.
Yeah, they do.
They were going ham. It looked great. The guy's a billionaire, and so like a lot of like advanced folks who work in like putting together these events and stuff, were pointing out that like you can see,
real stuff.
There's no like cheapening out on any of this launch event. Also, and I'll send this to the Wolf for our folks on YouTube. His official portrait. Have you seen this?
Yeah.
Oh no, with the hair.
This is the coolest.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, it's fantastic.
It's like
Hold on. Let's get.
It's a painting of Burgum.
It's a painting, which
he's
is so
got solid
great.
flow, like good hair.
Mm-hmm.
And you see like Buffalo, a Microsoft building.
And there's another random barn.
That says Great Plains Software. Like
Yeah.
the guy's got a platform.
Mm-hmm.
But look at that hair again.
I'm waiting for the Burgum moment.
Yeah.
Because it's gonna happen.
Burgum's
people are
happening.
gonna shop around. Burgum, hey, damn near killed him.
Burgum's got to come on. We'll get him on the. We'll get him
100%.
on. He's. I mean, my guess is if he's a North Dakota guy, he's got to be a good dude. So I'm sure he'll enjoy us.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, fellas, I think without getting too far, I got one more story that we got to cover.
Okay.
CNN.
Mm-hmm.
They fired Chris Licht. This is the most amazing thing that I've seen in media in a very long time. This network, CNN, which I had previous a ton of respect for. We're talking about the Wolf Blitzer covering the Desert Storm.
We're talking early 90s.
Right? And there's still just incredible journalists that work there. I mean, there are some that are terrible.
True. No, it's true.
But there are some that are...
Ashbrook's like this.
No, I mean, like,
fine. It's true.
They do good stuff on their war correspondence
there's
stuff.
There still are some...
They don't make the culture of the building. They just take a paycheck and do their best.
There may be some fine people.
But they created a atmosphere at CNN over the last 5 years that was positively toxic.
Yep.
That was basically beyond partisanship. It was disgusting.
It was insanity.
It was completely like if you turn it on at any moment, there could be some major event happening anywhere in the world, and they'd be like, well, another thing about election cheating.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It was like
they're still doing it now,
and they went like beyond off the deep end on
Russiagate.
On Russia, they were way over their
I mean,
skis.
we knew very. I personally know, and Smash does too. one correspondent in particular who is extremely smart, very good at what he does, and likes to cover a bunch of different things, who was told in no unspecific terms, you are covering Russia. Like, that's what you do now. And he's like, well, if I want a job, this is what I need to do.
Right.
So that's what he did. So anyway, all of this like results in record lows in terms of audience. I mean, they basically created the worst news station on the face of the planet.
Instead of being news, it was basically people who were addicted to the dopamine rush of hating Donald Trump.
Yeah, and a bunch of potatoes, a bunch of
right, and it
like
also,
the fat fucking potato that Licht had the audacity to fire, who apparently had a group within
Stelter,
CNN,
and who was then on TV today trying to do a victory lap.
Oh,
It's
he's
like,
loving it.
It's like, bro, you lost your job.
But he helped.
Everyone
But he
knows
helped cultivate it with the Oliver Darcy being on the record against his employer, saying that this guy's a joke or whatever.
Right.
Like that. That's the whole thing that happened.
It's garbage.
So Licht, what he did, just for everybody, just to summarize, he had the audacity to walk into Republican offices and say that I know we got it wrong. We'd like the opportunity. And we understand we're not going to earn it overnight, but we like the opportunity to re-engage with you. And he did that with a number of people, including Donald Trump, to the point where he got him to do a town hall. Now, this whole thing unravels when Trump does the town hall. And immediately the culture of the people he didn't fire creates this uprising where they demand basically that Licht be fired. That's what this is, by the way.
Right.
Let's not pretend like it's something else. That's what this is. Like, he could have had a rough management style. They could have been upset about the fact that he maybe fired one of their friends, the change and all of that. I get that. It's like corporate politics. I get it. But in the end, his demise was putting Donald Trump in a town hall.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of the same as the New York Times firing that editor after they published the Tom Cotton op-ed, right? It's like the Slack channel took over. The activists within the company are trying to dethrone people in management because they don't like giving Republicans a fair shake.
They don't.
In the absurdity of the Tom Cotton op-ed opposition, and the absurdity of thinking that a guy who got 71 million votes 2.5 years ago and half of the country supports him,
and he's the front runner in the race, and you can't
and
have
he
him
might be president.
Yeah.
You can't even put him on TV. Like, that's the sort of insanity that the average American hates, and that's why they've turned the network off. Chris Licht, I'm sure he's an imperfect person in a variety of ways, but the forces who are looking to shut him out and to shut out objectivity are the forces that are ruining that network.
Yeah.
And also, from a business standpoint, it's important to note a couple things. So David Zaslav, the CEO who runs the Discovery Warner Brothers entity, which post-merger owns CNN, owns HBO, owns a bunch of stuff. They're sitting on over $50 billion of debt, which is more than their market cap.
Yeah, no,
in the stock market. It's a tough situation. One of the first things he tried doing was putting Chris Licht in there to turn CNN around and try to make it a network that Americans will watch instead of a dwindling number of people who have some mental problem with Donald Trump.
Or a connection to catch.
How much debt? How much debt?
$50 billion.
With a B?
With a B. That's more than their market cap. So
how do you get into that kind of mess?
The good part of the mess is
why are you buying stuff if you got 50B in the hole?
The good part of for him is apparently he pulls down $100 million annually.
Wow, that guy's got a good deal going.
They're paying him $100 million to figure out how to get rid of $50 billion.
Doesn't make a lick of difference to that guy though.
And that's the thing is, for him,
so irresponsible.
That's the thing is, this has to be a problem when one of your properties is apparently so on fire that someone goes in there and is like, all right, let's try to be more of an objective news source, guys, and he's run out of the building.
Do you know what here's the biggest problem that I've got with the whole thing? Biggest problem I've got with the whole thing is that the impetus behind his demise, beyond the Trump deal, which is what started the ball rolling, was this Atlantic profile. This 15,000 words. If you have the time to read a 15,000 word profile about a CEO of a media company, God bless you. God bless you. You're either in the media or you're insane. Like that, there is nobody who has the time to. I'm actually sincerely interested, and I got through the first 600 words, and I was like, Jesus Christ!
Yeah, like it's a Robert Caro book.
Yeah, I mean, no,
I got a 140 character limit. If you can't express yourself in 140 characters, that's all you got.
But it's all that media Twitter was talking about all week was this Atlantic piece. And then he had to address all of the CNN employees about the Atlantic piece. And then he ultimately gets fired. If whatever organization you're running, I don't care if you sell mousetraps, or if you're in the media, or if you're president of the United States, if your solidarity within that organization and the group that you've surrounded you with is entirely vulnerable to an Atlantic magazine piece, you deserve to get fucking fired.
Yeah.
Because the only mistake, as far as I can tell, and again, I'm not in the middle of this, so maybe he was a huge asshole and there's a whole bunch of reasons for it. The fact that he didn't fire fucking everyone on day one, like he should have just fucking clear cut the whole goddamn place.
He should have rolled up red wedding style because, like, I mean, there were, like you had said, it was a toxic place. Yeah. You had what's his name that they fired because he was texting people from burners. Don Lemon. Don Lemon's doing this for years, being a psychopath.
If I'm the new guy in charge, I'm rolling in like Ari Gold in Entourage with the paintball gun.
Yeah,
and I'm taking out everybody.
Everyone's going.
Yeah.
Everyone's going, which is a shame because, again, I believe there are a lot of talented people. I know that sucks for your point of view, but that is true.
No,
but they're not. But they're not allowed to do what they want to do. But then there's this Oliver Darcy, fat fuck potato crew that is entirely committed to a leftist agenda that somehow you can't manage.
And I love
as a media imagine having a problem, by the way. Imagine expressing a problem with hosting a town hall with somebody who is at least, at very minimum, 50% shot at being the next president of the United States. You're a fucking news organization. Imagine having the thought process go through your head that somehow it is not newsworthy to have a sitting former president of the United States who could be at least 50% chance of a new president of the United States, and it's not worth hearing from.
Yeah. Nope, can't do it.
It's insane.
Yeah.
That's just
insane.
wild. That is wild insanity.
Yeah.
Like that should be run out on a wire.
And I love specifically, like you'd mentioned, Darcy, who used to work in conservative media. And like this is beyond levels of selling out. And part of what he banks on, if you work at CNN and you're mad at him and you don't want to deal with that, go look at his old articles. There's like he used to be like, why are men being allowed to compete in women's sports? Do you know what his coworkers will do to him if someone prints those and puts those in front of the coffee machine?
That's how the left tried to get rid of the Trump town halls. They started digging up Caitlin Collins' old article.
She was at the Daily Caller.
She was at the Daily Caller.
She was a fine journalist.
You know? I mean, those are the sort of cross currents that they have to deal with in the sort of activist left at their publication or at their news outlet.
It's unbelievable. Anyway, we have a whole lot that we didn't get to, and listen, I'm just getting warmed up. I mean, I just wish I had another hour at this.
But we got an interview.
But we have an interview. So let's go to it. I want to welcome to the program a very special guest, a guy that we've been following here for quite some time, a distinguished congressman from Texas's 8th Congressional District.
There it is.
Morgan Luttrell.
Hello, howdy.
How are you, sir?
I'm good. I appreciate that distinguished comment.
Yeah.
That's good to hear. I still have it. I've only been here for 6 months, but I haven't lost it.
We're being polite in the front end.
I know. Hey, just wait till give me 10 minutes, right? That's how my life. That's my lifestyle now. Everybody kind of eases into it, and once I soften my posture, they tend to get a little bit more aggressive. That's all right.
Well, listen, you've seen some shit, but I mean, you've been here for 6 months in Washington D.C. What do you think?
I'm enjoying it. It's the way I describe it. It's a series of problem sets, and if you're really engaged in problem solving, this is the place that you need to be.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's good. That's very good.
I never take it personal and never take it home.
Yeah.
I never make a decision inside 24 hours.
Oh.
And I damn sure don't watch the news. I think that's my
Make the news,
sanity
don't watch
right
the
now.
news.
Yeah, that's why I have my sanity still.
I think that's right. I mean, given what we've seen from the news lately, I think that's a smart posture.
It's different being on this side. Coming again 6 months ago, I wasn't. You know, I was still just regular old boy from Montgomery County, right? And being a part of what is put out in the media, there's such a contrast to it sometimes. Sometimes not. Fair enough, right? Fair assessment. But sometimes.
It's amazing.
Man, that the liberties that some media outlets take, that is not even close to what happened. But, man, you guys make it exciting. This is a Bruckheimer film, but...
Because, look, you're a political connoisseur before you got into elected office. You've clearly watched some of this stuff. Did it surprise you when you got in the middle of it?
There's some things that did. I really set my expectations wide, casted a wide net, just because of watching it, engaging in it as a grown-up, if you will. And...
Is that what we call ourselves these days?
I try. I'm almost 50, so I'm trying to figure out when. Clint Eastwood said it the best: "Don't ever let the old man in." That's what I'm trying not to do.
Yeah.
But it's funny because I watched, like House of Cards, all like the campaign and Ides of March. All those political movies that people are like, "Man, does that really happen?" And after we got elected, my wife and I watched them again. Like, man, some of that's spot on, and then some was like, waiting for that to happen.
Yeah.
God dang, man.
I hope you don't get thrown in front of a Metro. Or
I know. I don't ride the Metro anymore just because of that.
Now, you have a twin brother.
I do. Identical twin brother.
Identical twin.
Good-looking son of a bitch, man. He's a handsome bastard.
It's always nice to encounter a man of that kind of good looks.
I'm an ugly man. He's a good-looking dude. I'm telling you, man. Personality is everything.
But you have an incredible military history.
Thank you.
We're all obviously proud and honored of your service as a Navy SEAL. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
It was the greatest job that I never had. Right, never went to work, and we didn't go to work. It was one of those growing up in the country playing. We played Army back in the day because nobody knew what a SEAL was, but Rambo was a big deal, right?
Yeah, right. Closest thing you can get to Rambo.
Closest thing, right? And look, I had Marcus too, and he's a SEAL as well.
Yeah.
So where we came, again, a little bitty town in Texas. Nobody had heard of a SEAL. We didn't know any of them. But my brother and I made up our minds in our early teens that that's what we were going to do. And no believers, right? No believers whatsoever.
Right.
But that's what we wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we went after. And both of us ended up making it. And I got to tell you, there's certain aspects of it that are great. It was the greatest experience of my life, and I am so happy I did. It put me on a trajectory that got me where I am today, made me the man I am, allows me to do the things and have the latitudes that I have because of the confidence it instilled in me going through the training, but being next to individuals who were champions.
Yeah.
Right? You always hear the phrase, "Show me your friends, I'll show you your future."
Mm-hmm.
So when you surround yourself with champions, like the men and the women that serve in special warfare, you don't have anything but the ability to do great things. Because even if you're mediocre, you're still at that, and they hold you. Okay, we eat our own.
Yep.
Right? Yeah. I'm not a victim of 2 wars, right? I don't have post-traumatic stress, right? I spent my entire career giving that shit to other people. And was damn good at it. and my teammates were too.
Yep.
But I look back on my service and when I say this, I don't mean this in a bad way. I just don't have any other way to articulate it. But I was blessed to be able to fight in 2 wars.
Mm-hmm.
Being a team guy, and our skill sets are basically blowing shit up and killing people, taking the bad off the planet, right?
Yep.
And I had the opportunity to do that with my teammates, and we were very effective at it and loved every second of it.
Amazing.
And when it was time for me to turn the page and start a new chapter, which was challenging getting out.
Well, you were injured.
I was. I did. I got injured. I actually would be retired by now, but I think I did 14 years, medically retired at 14 years, which a blessing and a curse, nonetheless. But again, I transitioned and moved on from it, but would not change a thing the good, bad, and indifferent. One of the things that you don't expect, because when you come out of those training cycles, when I say you think you're superhuman or Superman or Superwoman, that's just the mentality you have.
Yeah.
And when we started losing guys, I lost 4 roommates, 2 best friends, and I lost my brother for 5 days. I've been to more funerals. I mean, I'm tattooed from wrist to shoulders with memorials. I'm the most tattooed man in Congress, by the way.
that is
I need a Guinness thing for that.
Yeah.
If you checked AOC, I'm not.
I haven't. We've never actually spoken.
Okay.
That's good.
But one thing that you don't really appreciate before you get in is the fact that you're going to lose loved ones.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about my teammates. And I brought my teammates home, and my family loved them. And everybody that met them loved them, right? So you cast this net that you don't expect to do when you're so close to somebody that you'll die for them. I mean, that's what the community's about, right? And then where I come from, they think the same way. So when we lose them, the community grieved, right? The world grieves, every family grieves, and you're losing a brother, and my mom and dad lost some sons.
Yeah.
And that was, you can't get used to that. You don't understand it. It's just one of those things, but you move forward. You celebrate their life every single day. Every time I don't have long sleeves on, I look at my arms, I think about one operation on this one operation on this one, 31 on this one, 19 on this one, that kind of thing. But that's okay. I mean, we signed up for it. There is, in my opinion, no greater glory than to give your life for your country and your brothers doing what you love doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
that's in large part why you chose to do what you're doing now.
It is. I'm doing this. I'm here for my sons, and I don't want to be here because I'm away from my sons. That is a challenging part for this job.
It's the hardest part about being in Congress.
It is. And my sons are 6 and 10. My 10-year-old's struggling with it.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate. Luckily for, you got Zoom and all that other stuff. They're out of school now. Driving my wife crazy. Poor thing.
It's nothing but sports. You got to get them into just
they're everything from, we're racing motorcycles, bicycles, we're in jiu-jitsu, basketball, baseball. I'm inundating them with something outside.
Team sports.
Yeah. By the way that I was raised is like when the sun's up, you're out, don't come back, figure out something to do. And
that's right. They used to lock us out.
Lock us outside. Yeah. In the country, there weren't street lights. It's like, just come back. Right. Maybe.
I feel like it have to be at least the next day before they come looking for you.
Yeah, 24 hours.
I think in special forces and sort of like small unit operations, I think in all the stories I've ever heard from people, what I find most fascinating is how much it requires you to think on your feet and improvise, because you are sort of a small unit and crazy things can happen in some of these operations. I'm curious, like, what's the craziest thing that ever happened, on an operation that you can talk about?
That is definitely declassified.
Yeah, definitely declassified. So innovative, creative thinking and problem solving is a must-have.
Yeah.
In an individual that's in the communities, and I don't care what branch you're in. And if you're in those communities, you have to do that. Right? There's no pub, there's no manual, there's no set of directions to say follow this. Matter of fact, in Naval Special Warfare, there's no, like in the Army, they have these platoon leadership books and tactics and books and manuals and pubs and all that kind of. We don't have that in NSW because tactics change every deployment.
Yeah.
Right. So we rely on the subject matter experts that are coming back from the war zone to instruct everybody, and we go forward and change it. The most, so there's one that always comes to mind when I think of, oh my God, how did we get through it? It was underwater.
Oh,
nice.
Right? Locking out of a submarine.
Wow.
Locking out of a submarine. So my first command was SEAL Delivery Vehicle Team 1. It's out in Hawaii. Most people don't know about this command. It's all it's all done from the water to the land. Mm-hmm. So if you think of all the countries that are nefarious actors around the country that have water in proximity, or put that in perspective. Water's always cold. Make no mistake about it, always.
Yeah.
I mean,
in Hawaii, the Pacific.
Even in Hawaii, it's cold.
Yeah.
People think Hawaii, it's warm. No, but the coldest my brother ever was, he told me his story, the coldest I ever was diving in Hawaii. I don't want to kill myself. So this particular evolution, if you will, this was a training. I'll do a training evolution. That way we don't have to get into the blood and guts of it all. Underwater, and we had come off a sub in our little mini submersible that takes us a great distance, right? So we don't have to swim it.
Yeah.
And we were in dry suits because the water was so cold. And in the middle of the night, at the bottom of the ocean, it's black beyond black. I mean, it's just something that.
Are you doing like GPS at that point?
Oh yeah. Well, you got your nav boards and you're following the compass and it's all the craziness that happens underwater. The greatest part about it is nobody knows that we messed up. You figure it out underwater. I mean, the worst things that imaginable happen underwater, but when we come to the surface, everybody's like, "Oh, they're great." No, that's not how that happens.
Yeah. A lot of shit went down underneath there.
Oh my gosh! I mean,
that's kind of like politics.
Yeah, but exactly. How'd y'all figure that out? I mean, it was perfect the whole time.
Everybody had a plan. We executed the plan.
Plan your dive your plan. That never works. Anyway, we were locked. We were coming out. We came up as shallow as we could. We bottomed out our little SDV, and we were coming out. And underwater, you have tap code. You can't see. You just feel. So we have tap codes. Everything is numbered. We have little indicators on all our gear. I was a 4-man, 3-man, 2-man, 1-man, right? And it's a sniper element that was coming out. I came out of the boat first, and I did not get all of the air out of my dry suit. And when I did, I came out and my feet went right above my head. Okay. My dry suit was camouflage, but again, it was in the middle of the night. And as I started rocketing to the surface, I had the regulator, the air hose in my mouth, and I grabbed a hold of the line. And I couldn't reach my demand valve to let the air out, right? So I'm floating above I can look down. I can make out, because when you move underwater, it's called bioluminescence. It glows a little bit, right? Yeah. So I could see the guys down there working,
and you're just up.
But I'm up there. Okay, but I'm the first man out. So here comes everybody else, right? And what we're doing is we're changing out of our dive gear and putting on our combat gear underwater.
Oh, Jesus.
And they're starting to hand everything out, and as they're transitioning the whole time, and the water was freezing cold. And the one thing that you can't cover up in a dry suit is your hands and your face, right? So my mouth is so cold and numb, I'm losing the ability to clench down on the regulator, and my hands are so cold, I'm starting to lose my grip. So I'm about to lose grip and float away, upside down, in the ocean, right? Done and done. Well, we go through these procedures of anything like this. If anything bad happens underwater, you're with a buddy, you know how to react, right? How to save a life. But this, and to your point, are there contingency plans? Well, this has never happened. You know, they tell you specifically, get all the air out of your suit so this doesn't happen. Right? Here I am.
You're innovating.
Yeah.
And they're like innovating.
And they're like, if they can't reach your demand now, grab your knife and stab your suit. But I couldn't reach my knife. It was too far down my leg. Lesson learned, right? But now my knife's on my thigh, right? So I had bitten through the regulator, the mouthpiece, and I was letting go. And I don't know the time frame, but I had made peace with God. I was like, I'm coming to see you, buddy. And my buddy, remember I told you tap codes and indicators? They finally realized I wasn't there. And looked up and grabbed me and pulled me back inside that boat.
Wow.
Right before. I mean, I was probably had let go when I was gone.
Yeah.
And he reached up and grabbed me and sucked me down back in.
Holy smokes.
Yeah. And I remember sitting down inside the boat, and I was breathing as hard as I could, just take as much air in as I could, because I was starting to hyperventilate. But the beautiful part about it is I got my breath, I changed out, and I went on a 5-day SR. And
made some people pay for that.
That was the end of it. You know, you just kind of tell that story later. It was no big deal. I mean, nobody died, so we're good.
Yeah.
Bad experiences make great stories.
Right.
I laugh about it now, but it was terrifying at the time. I was thinking, here I go, man. Near-death experience. A lot of we've lost guys underwater. I used to say physics. The laws of physics don't work underwater. They're different. It's just, but that's not true. It's the medium that changes everything. Because nothing moves like it should up here.
Right.
And if you're not on your A game, especially in the conditions that we're in, you're dead.
Well, composure is like
absolutely. You cannot freak out underwater
in that environment.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Best way to
it wasn't all in Hawaii. You spent some time in Afghanistan.
Oh, that particular op was. Matter of fact, we were in Seattle, Washington, when that little gym happened. So you can imagine how cold that water is. You know what's scariest? The most terrified I've ever been is I opened up the canopy of our little mini sub, and there was a pod of killer whales swimming with us.
Oh,
Wow.
no way.
No.
Bro.
We have thoughts on that.
They're
in the
very
variety
dangerous
program.
animals.
But I tell you what, I mean, it scared me. It petrified me.
They are killers. They're not named
They don't.
killer whales for nothing.
They're not looking to hug you underwater.
They just sunk like 3 yachts, right?
You know,
Yeah.
there's only one documented case of a killer whale killing a human outside of captivity.
Documented.
Documented.
That's
I wasn't going to find out if they were,
Yeah.
but just the size and being, it was like from me to you.
Yeah, right. I would freak out.
I was like, oh my God, get me out of the water. I didn't even want to get in the water again.
So you gutted the killer whale as well.
No, yeah, man.
That's
Hey, there's
he
some
opened
things
up on this thing.
It's a confirmed kill.
I mean, you want to talk about apex predator?
Yeah.
Those guys.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
when
I'm-
Shamu met Morgan, it was a real problem for sure. That was,
That was his family that were pissed and asking where he was at.
Right.
which it turns out that's what they do, right? They're sinking all kinds of yachts. Have you seen this? They sink all kinds of boats now.
They do not. I mean, they're so brilliant. They feel threatened. They're coming after you, and they don't forget.
Yeah, they're smart.
It's like elephants.
They've got big teeth too.
Ugh.
They got big teeth.
But negotiating with killer whales is one thing. When you're in Afghanistan negotiating with what was on the other side of us there, that is a much, much more complicated task. And you were talking about being on your A game, and you were talking about that there's no book for what you're supposed to do in a difficult situation. I can't imagine there's a book written for exactly what you're supposed to do when you're in Afghanistan and you're trying to figure out how to negotiate with the other side.
That lends itself to to innovative, creative, out of the box thinkers, problem solvers. You have to assess a problem set early on, and no knee jerk reactions. Always let it develop. Even up here when people are like, "Oh my God, we're freaking out. This is catastrophic." It's like, look, guys and gals, nobody's shooting at us up here. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? Seriously, that's my baseline. There's nobody shooting at us up here. Take a wrap off for a second. But over in the Middle East and Afghanistan, Iraq, whichever, tribe to tribe is different. There's different expectations, some different languages or dialects of languages, if you will.
Yeah.
And that getting things accomplished with a society, generational society that, all they know is violence and warfare. They thrive on that over there. They do. And
Yeah, I mean for generations.
They've been fighting for generations.
Right.
So when we were interacting with them, trying to problem solve with them, I mean, not only you're always apprehensive, like, all right, and watching, because they don't wear everybody. I often think of how, I say cool, but I don't know if cool is the right word to use. How cool it would have been to fight an army that was in a uniform. That's who I got to go after, because they were just amongst us, and then you really had to be very self-aware before they'd snatch you up. But we were always successful, and then because we had our mission set, we had our our left and right flank, and we knew what we were trying to accomplish. And then you put a group of guys together that are hyper aggressive, with no sleep till it's done. We're not stopping until we win.
Yep.
You can't stop that.
No, I mean, you had a mission. You were going to go accomplish it. Come hell or high water.
Yeah, I mean, that's the U.S. military as a whole. I mean, that's just how we're. And everything that's going on around the world with Russia and Ukraine and China and Iran and North Korea, and I hear folks, especially back in my district, just across the country, they're like, man, we hear the Spetsnaz are just killers, and the Chinese, they're just 100 to 1. And I always say, hey, look, you know what? Let me tell you something. You cut the Marine Corps loose, stand by and watch. They're the baddest sumbitches that walk this planet, and mean to boot. And I'm a Navy guy saying that about Marines, right?
Right, that takes something.
I mean, it's hard to choke that up and spit that out. But we volunteer to fight.
Yeah.
Other countries, they draft you in or it's mandatory service. Around here, man, these guys and gals just itching to get into a mix.
You want to do
Hey, you want to fight somebody who wants to come out there and kick your ass? God dang, no, man. And that's why I constantly build everybody up. I was like, hey, man, I know what you're seeing on TV and this, that, and the other, man. Make no mistake about it. The United States military is baddest some bitches on the planet.
Yeah. Well, we need more people like you to talk about that, because I feel like we're in a day and age when people in this country have lost sight of some of that.
There is that narrative is out there,
which sucks.
It does. And I hate the fact that somebody said this to me the other day. Like, when you see the movies that are out and you read some of the books and articles, it's always a tragedy when it's in the military. You know, this is gonna happen to you. This is inevitable. You're gonna have post-traumatic stress. This, that. People, hey man, no, that's a small fraction of it. That may happen.
Yeah.
The rest of it is the most amazing experiences ever. People you meet, places you go, things you get to do. You can do anything in the military. Great stepping stone.
Well, they mold men like you. And here's a question for you. How much, given your choice of timing for running for Congress and ultimately being successful, how much was the eventual withdrawal of Afghanistan and the botched, absurd Biden administration imperative of getting out when they did without much of a plan, obviously leaving a ton of people behind?
Sure, yeah.
How much of that was instrumental in your decision making about now's the time I need to get involved here?
That obviously played a part in it.
Yeah.
You know, when you have a breakdown in leadership, that's a breakdown in leadership, breakdown in managerial skills. That's what that was.
Yeah.
You know, where I landed is oversight of that and holding people accountable. That's what legislators do, right? We make laws and we hold people accountable. We found out if there's an error in law, if there's an absence of a law, or there's a change that needs to be in law, that's where we come in as legislators. I sit back because I wasn't there, right? And I don't armchair quarterback. And knowing being read in where I'm at now, when you have DOD and State Department, we're not buddies. DOD and State Department don't like each other at all. It's just, and I'll argue that all day long. Different ideologies, different concepts of operations, how things function, who's running the show, how far down in organizations, who's responsible for that.
The old carrot and stick.
Carrot and stick. There you go.
Yeah.
So as I understand it, as it was handed off, one concept of op was passed off. It was shot down. President went with another concept of operations, and this is what we saw. Right. To date, no one has been held accountable.
Yeah, I know.
And I can't get my head around that. I know of something happened not too long ago in the military, and they hung 11 people for it. They removed 11 people from duty, and then 13 of our service members were killed over there, and not one person was held accountable.
Yeah.
And on House Armed Services Committee, they've been digging into that. We've dug into it. We're still going as far deep as when you have an individual at a certain level that is not willing to hold people accountable, but they're the top line.
Yeah. Not much you can do.
Not much you can do.
But you keep on digging, and that's what we appreciate. I hope you continue to do that.
We are,
I know
buddy.
you will.
Yeah,
I know you will.
And there's 80 veterans now in the House of Representatives.
That's the thing, right? I mean, and I think we've had a fair number in the Republican side here. It is like a rebirth almost.
It is. And it's on both sides. I was at an event, this guy, a new congressman, introducing himself to me and to the group, and he's a military guy, and he goes, my last op before I wrote a desk and got out was an operation in Afghanistan. He's standing right here in front of me, and Democrat. The last operation in Afghanistan, we went out and we were able to save one man. He was the air officer for it. It was Marcus, my brother.
Wow.
He was the air officer for the operation to save my. Yeah, dude. I walked over and gave him a hug, and I was like, how long you been sitting on that little gym?
Was that
and how'd you become a lib?
But he knows. I was like, hey man. But those are so that is an instant connection.
Yeah,
and I can have conversations with him.
Yeah.
He's from Colorado. Great guy.
So was that Operation Red Wings? Is that what that was?
The Operation Red Wing was the operation my brother and his teammates were on.
Yes,
and then the rescue operation that went in. He was the air officer for that.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, how cool is that, right?
Incredible.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And actually his office is right across the hall from mine.
Is that right?
Yeah. I'll stop in there all the time and just thank him and, hey bro, appreciate you. You need anything? That kind of thing.
Well, listen, I mean, look, you get a lot of that. And people have it was a big deal to have military service in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. We lost some of that in the 2000s. It's now coming back, but one of the reasons beyond just serving your country and proving that you can serve your country and you're committed to your country, that's important in representing your country, is also what you've just demonstrated by talking about all of this. You're thoughtful about stuff. You think about things. You're contemplative about issues. You're not reactive. And I think that's really important.
You know, I've seen the best and worst in humanity.
Totally.
In my opinion, you know, there's people who've seen a lot worse than me, but I've seen how bad it can really get. And I understand, you know, and I come from a very conservative district, and I was raised in my district.
Yeah.
You know, and I speak their language. That was one of the things that got me into this position, is like I was from there.
Yeah.
I'm cultured. I understand and appreciate that there's not another district, not only in the state but in the country, that's like mine. But I understand that 800,000 people have an opinion in every other district in the continental United States that don't believe the same way that I do. And if we're going to live in harmony in this country, you got to appreciate where I'm coming from. I appreciate where you're coming from. Let's meet somewhere right in here. Hey, I'm in the majority. We're going to inch this way. You're in the majority. You got the power.
Yeah.
You know, you have to respect that.
It's
You know, there's members up there that I have no political alignment with. Zero. I mean, we couldn't be further away from each other politically, but I have a cordial relationship with them, and they they ask me great. You know, the conversations that we have are great. But when it's time for me to key up, or them to key up, I sit back and let them speak the word of 800,000 people that they represent.
Yeah.
And then I step in and I speak for District 8.
Yeah, totally. Listen, sometimes you got to see some shit to understand some shit. And I think that's the case with Morgan Luttrell. Hey, I got 3 questions for you.
Lay it on me, I'm ready.
We do this for everybody.
I'm ready.
All right?
I'm ready.
Your last meal on Earth, if you can plan it, what would it be?
Oh, okay. That's easy. Because I eat the same meal for my birthday.
Yeah, okay, all right. You're on my same wave.
Fried chicken.
Okay.
Macaroni and cheese. Shells. Green beans. Fresh with bacon. Yeah. Mashed potatoes with the skin left on with sour cream inside.
Oh, yeah.
Corn on the cob.
Oh.
And a big old glass of sweet tea. And that's my brother Mark's and I, my mother, she makes that for us every birthday.
Wow. Is that right?
Well, yeah,
that's
absolutely.
A hell of a tradition.
Yeah, it is. And since we were, I can remember, and obviously it wasn't from birth, but since I can remember, that's what we've always had. And my mama actually taught my wife how to make that too. So
is that right?
My wife Leslie, she makes it.
Oh, as well. Next generation.
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking brown bag fried chicken. You know,
you shake that.
Takes
thing?
all day.
I love that, man. That's so good, and it's super country.
Oh, but I mean, God, I love me some fried chicken.
I love that. All right. So usually this question goes to people who've been in politics for a long time. You haven't been, and the question is, if you weren't doing this and you had this big blue sky in the middle of your life that you could do anything with, what would you fill it with? We got to go back a little bit with you, right? So let's say your professional career, let's say you have 20 years in smack dab middle of your life, that you could go back and do anything you wanted with it with the benefit of retrospect. What would it be?
I'd be a hay farmer. Swear to God.
All right, let's hear it.
I'd be a hay farmer. I'd be a rancher.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's the hardest job in the country, but it's the most blissful. You get on your tractor all day long cutting hay, moving cattle, working horses. Nobody's yelling at you, screaming at you, shooting at you, throwing things at you. The only thing you got to do is make sure they survive so you can survive, and there's something to be said about that.
Hard day's work.
It's a hard day where you wake up in the morning before the sun comes up, you're working. And when that sun goes down, you're sleeping.
Yeah.
And then everything you do in between takes care of your family, it takes care of the rest of the country. Right?
Oh, man. That's
baling hay.
Peaceful.
That's the hardest job. I tell you what, for the parents out there, if you've got sons or daughters that are misbehaving,
make them go
find you a ranch that throws hay.
Yeah,
walk them out there and say you're doing this for a summer.
So I
see what happens.
I had a buddy who baled hay for a summer, and the one thing I'll never forget is how many cuts he had on the inside of his forearms on both sides, and the things were basically scars for about 6 months.
It's brutal.
That's brutal work.
I mean, it's throwing it and stacking it on a trailer out in the field is one thing. Putting it back in the barn is the worst part.
Yeah,
because you got to unload it all again and restack it, and you got to stack it right or fall down. I'm talking square bells.
Yeah,
I'm not talking about them round bells. I'm talking about square.
Yeah,
and heaven forbid you do alfalfa because that weighs about as much as I do.
Wow.
Man, have a good dinner with the kids, put them to bed, say a prayer, good night, and do it again.
They get up. So when I grew up on a horse ranch, so when we got up before the sun came up, Marcus and I had to go out and feed water the horses before the school bus showed up. And got home, had to do our homework, then do our chores, feed and water the horses. Mama had supper ready. We ate, went to bed.
Yeah.
That was our week. And then Saturday, did whatever we want. Sunday, went to church.
I want to meet Mr. and Mrs. Luttrell.
Yeah.
Oh man, my mom. Sitting here looking at me and everything that I've been through. My mother is a project of the '60s. She's a hippie, and I mean hardcore still.
Really?
And my daddy was an outlaw. This is what you get. Yeah.
That's how you make the Luttrell.
That's how you like the Luttrell brothers, man.
It's like a country song.
It should be.
It is.
Gosh, almighty.
Can I throw in one more question here?
Are you going to do
I just think it's only
before
fitting.
we get to the last one?
Well, since he raised the idea of a killer whale.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So we talk a lot about animal fighting on this podcast. And there's one guy who's not here who claims that he could take a horse in a fight.
Which is nonsense.
It is nonsense.
He does
That's what
claim
he
that.
claims.
Yeah.
What kind of horse we talking about? Like a Shetland or a Welsh pony? Or?
Well, that's what we would say.
Not a Clydesdale.
He likes us to think it's a Bergeron.
Which are aggressive.
Yeah. Very. So the question that we have for you is a question we talk about often. If you were to think about the biggest, baddest animal that you could take mano a mano, what do you think?
And win or lose, or does it matter?
And win.
Or just stand up to
and win. Standing up, and you could define standing up to the animal and surviving it as winning.
Yeah, you can whatever you'd like.
All right. Man, that's a great question.
It does. You know what? If you ever seen the movie The Revenant,
best part is that Morgan is like,
okay, hey, so
if you ever seen the movie The Revenant,
yes, them two did. I remember them two teenagers that got in a fight with. One of them got attacked by a grizzly bear, and his buddy jumped on the bear, and the bear turned on him and went to work on him, and they saved each other.
Yeah,
I mean that's
some shit.
That's love.
And it also qualifies.
Hey. Man, winning is a different thing because I was going to say,
surviving's winning.
I was going to say,
yeah.
Have you ever had your ass kicked? There's some time.
Oh yeah. We're from the Midwest.
Okay. Yeah, right. Okay. Well, you guys fight for
ass kicked. Yeah.
Everybody, it gets cold. You guys
it's
fight.
A rite of passage.
It gets cold. You guys fight. That's all you got.
It gets hot where we from. We fight all the time.
It's cold. You fight.
That's a true statement, though.
It's
just true.
It's a fact.
Man, I got in a pretty good scrap with a bobcat one day.
No,
really?
Yeah, I was out running.
Wow.
Wait, are you serious? So this thing like started stalking you?
I ran up on it and scared him as much as he scared me. I had my dog with me, which he didn't do a damn thing. And that I was shocked at how fast those things were.
Yeah.
And he actually got a hold of my hand. Scratched me up pretty good. But I was able.
Your right hand?
Yeah, my right.
Are you right-handed?
Well, it all depends.
This is a seal answer. Whatever hand you got.
There you go. I got a lot of weapons on me. I grew up right-handed, and I got to BUD/S SEAL training and found out I was left eye dominant, and they were like, if you want to, you need to switch.
Mm-hmm. Really?
Yeah, so I switched, and I'm left-handed, everything except for writing and throwing.
Really?
Yeah.
They know what they're doing.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Anyway. I digress. Where was I going?
No,
the Bobcat. The Bobcat. Yeah, so I actually got it off of me. It ran, and trust me, I ran. There was actually I came out of the park, a little dock in the box, and I walked in, and the hand was bloody. Not bad. It just looked like a cat got a hold of me.
Yeah.
And I was like, do I need to get a tetanus shot or anything? He's like, nah, we don't have that around here.
Wait, really?
That's all I said. I was like,
come on.
I was like, okay.
They're like, no treatment.
No treatment.
Come on.
Still looking for that damn Bobcat, though. I had this whole... Because then after that, because the park walks around this river, and I was like, all right, as a team guy, if he comes back at me, I'm going to grab him, I'm going to jump in the river, I'm going to drown his ass. I never saw him again. I guess he got enough.
As a SEAL, you got to take him.
Hey,
you got to take him to your.
Yeah, I go to the water.
You go to the water.
I'll take all challengers, man. I go to the water. You better hope there's not a body of water around. Even if I'm almost 50, I still, if somebody's fucking with me,
right to the
I always
water.
look around if there's a swimming pool or a pond somewhere and be like, hey, man.
It's like a gator.
But if,
gator roll.
Yeah, but if there's not, I might second. I was like, all right.
That's an excellent answer.
Hey, man, it's
so
true.
Good. It's so good. All right, so last question. This is a little bit esoteric. So you gotta. Our view is that most successful people are motivated by one of two things: the thrill of victory or the agony of defeat. And it's not that anybody enjoys losing or that anybody doesn't like winning. Yep. It's that what motivates you to keep improving yourself, to keep going to that next level. And like the baseline that we always use on this is like Michael Jordan is the ultimate agony of defeat guy. Every championship he had, he celebrated for like 2 minutes. Mm-hmm. But like if you insulted him on the court, 35 years later, he's still talking about it.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
And remembers it. Exactly how it happened. Yeah.
Right. So, and the other side is on the thrill of victory is this like consummate optimist, glass half full, keep pushing forward and know that you can get to the next self-motivated stage by seeing a goal and directing yourself towards it.
Okay.
So where do you see on the spectrum? Where do you find yourself?
That's a very complex question.
It is.
A lot of intangibles in there.
Tons.
Good. All right. Let me see if I can peel this onion back. So I've learned more and gained more in all of my failures than I ever have in any of my successes or victories. Right.
Yep.
And I've learned more and felt more gratitude along the way before the race than I ever did when I was running it or won it.
Interesting.
Right?
Okay, yeah.
There's nothing more gratifying than kicking everybody's ass than first place.
Yeah.
Right? There's not. But I think there's a good synergy between the two for me.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And like Andre Agassi said it best, man, because he all the way to the top, and then he talks about going all the way to the bottom with all of his addiction problems and everything that he had going on, and the struggle he had to get back to number one. And then he talks about what it was. He goes, it was so precious for me to be number one initially, but I didn't know what I had.
Yeah.
And then when I lost it all and got it again, I did.
Yeah.
And I always remembered him. I read that. He didn't tell me that. I read that. And I use that perspective in life now.
That's good.
You know what I mean? So that's best. That's probably the best way I could.
Yeah.
It takes both of them to make me whole.
Yeah. No, it makes a ton of sense. A healthy amount of agony of defeat in order to appreciate.
Man, if you don't take yourself outside your comfort zone frequently, you lose so much ambition. You lose so much just life experiences.
Yeah.
Which I think, I wish people would do that. And I don't care what it is. Right, I tell people, it's like, hey, people are like, hey, what was Hell Week like? What was it like being in war? How do I challenge myself? You want to challenge yourself? This is no shit. If you want to challenge yourself, wake up Saturday morning and walk 50 miles. Don't stop. And you don't have to run. Walk 50 miles straight. You will endure more physical and mental pain. And don't train for it. Cold bore it. And see how far you go. And I've had one person take me up on it, and he called me about mile 32.
He's like, you son of a bitch.
He's like, first I've ever gone is 4 miles. And he made it to mile 32. And he told me passed out on a Waffle House sidewalk. He did.
Which is the dangerous
I hope
place.
he hears this. And it's a danger. Oh, absolutely. I mean, no telling what happens when that place. And I love Waffle House, but I'm saying. And he called me the next day and told me that happened. And I was like, all right, and I let him go. And I called him back a couple days later, and I was like, tell me what you learned about yourself. Because he went from 4 miles to 32 miles. Yeah. He's like, I learned more about myself in that distance between 4 and 32 than I have in mine. So he's a kid. He's like 22 years old. Yeah. He's like, I was like, now you know where your bar's at. Yeah. You're at 32.
Yeah.
Take another step, right? Just keep climbing.
Yeah.
And I mean, he learned how far he could push himself before failure.
I want Morgan Luttrell to wake me up every morning. Yeah. Right? And just be like, hey, man. You think you can do this today?
One more step.
One more round, man. Rocky said it better. One more round.
One more round.
Yeah, Dave Goggins good, but you guys know who that is? Dave Goggins?
Oh, yeah.
Sure. Okay. He been on your show yet?
No, but he's like ultra marathon guy, right? Like,
yeah, he's probably arguably, I would say, the most mentally gifted man on the planet, right?
Yeah.
And just the way, just him. He's a very quiet guy. He's a good buddy of mine. Very quiet guy, but I mean, when he turns on, stand by. Yeah. I mean, he'll let you know about it, right?
Yeah.
And just some of the things that and I take a lot from. I ran ultra marathons because of a buddy of mine that asked me to do it. We called David, said, "Hey, how do we get through this?" And of course, he's like, "Look, pussy." Like, that's all I need to know. Okay, I can do that.
Well, that was easy.
Now I'm
check.
Now I'm in.
Yeah, but the whole walk 50 miles thing is a great test for someone who thinks that they need a challenge in their life. and it's doable.
I love
And
it.
then if I've had somebody was like, well, I'm in a wheelchair and I got to get my hips out, my legs out. I was like, all right, wake up every morning at 4:00 and get in a cold shower for 30 days straight. It'll change your life. First couple of days, you amp yourself up. You're motivated, absolutely. About 5 days, day 5 to day 15, you want to kill yourself. And day 20, you live for it.
Oh man,
You live for
This
it.
is so great. I wish we could do like 4 hours with Morgan Luttrell. This is
Me too.
I feel like I'm gonna run through a brick wall.
Hey, man.
I mean,
You gotta
Kool-Aid
live
Man.
life to the fullest, man. Life's a garden, right? You gotta dig it. I mean, to compliment Joe Dirt.
Listen, for all
Joe Dierte.
Don't French it up, buddy.
for all of our listeners who want to follow along, help you out, where do they go?
So my official website is Luttrell@house.com.
That's good staff work right there.
Luttrell@house.com. And then Mojo Luttrell is Instagram, I think. And then if you Google my name,
You can find
man,
you can find all this.
I got more stuff going on social media. Yeah,
We'll find
we'll
you.
get that to you. We'll get that to you
find
later. I'll send you a memo. Nobody's ever asked me how they follow me before. I'm like,
We just
I'll
want
come see you. You don't have to follow me.
Yeah, no, seriously. I have a feeling you're going to show up in my creek. Morgan Luttrell, thank you so much for coming
No,
in.
thanks, guys. I enjoyed it.
We didn't
It
know
was
you
awesome.
before this, but I feel like you're an old friend at this point. Thank you so much
I
for
appreciate
coming
it, man.
in.
Absolutely, guys. I enjoyed it. It was awesome.
Take care.
All right.
Absolute banger of an episode, if I may say so myself. Thank you so much to the good congressman for doing our live in-person interview in our new studio. And thank you so much to our listeners and our viewers on YouTube. So until next time, minions, keep the faith, hold the line, and own the libs. We'll see you on Tuesday. Stay ruthless.